Hi, my name is Jamie Shoemaker, and today I'm going to be teaching you about cognitive and language development, stages of child and adolescent. First, what is cognitive development? Have you ever heard of it before? If not, we're going to go ahead and go over that today. Cognitive development is the construction of thought processes, including remembering, problem solving, and decision making from childhood through adolescence to adulthood. Why would it be important for us to learn about this? Well, it's going to enable us to better understand how we receive new information, how we process it, and obtain it to grow as individuals, beginning from when we are infants, all the way through adulthood. So let's talk about one of the influential people for the cognitive development, Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was born August 9, 1896. He died September 16, 1980. He was first known as a Swiss psychologist and first studied zoology and philosophy. Within that time, he did become interested in psychology, where he then moved and studied furthermore in psychology in Paris. It was in Paris where he discovered that the mind of a child evolves through a series of 4 set stages. So what are the 4 stages of cognitive development? Let's first talk about the first stage, sensory motor stage. This is going to have the age range of birth to 2 years. The sensory motor stage characteristics for birth to 2 years old are going to include infants that they're only aware of what is in front of them. They'll use their senses, reflexes, and physical interactions. And they're going to constantly experiment through trial and error. If you've ever witnessed a young child picking up a wooden spoon and banging it on a pan, and they get excited because they hear the noise, that's a good example of just the trial and error. They're trying to figure out if hitting this spoon against that bowl, what is that going to cause? Obviously, probably not the best noise for parents, but it's their way of experimenting. And then they're also going to begin to realize an object exists even if it cannot be seen. This is known as object permanence. An example of object permanence can be found in this comic clip. Johnny, find out what this peekaboo guy wants. He keeps kidnapping my family and giving them back. When playing peekaboo, which I'm sure many of you have, the infant first sees the face of the parent, or the family member or friend. Then when the face is hidden, the infant knows the parent is still there, even though they can't see it. The next stage we're going to talk about is the preoperational stage, age range of 2 to 7 years old. Within this stage, the characteristics you will notice are that the children begin to think symbolically. They only see things from their perspective, also known as egocentric. Or we may remember them as the terrible twos. Also, children do not understand concepts of conservation, which in the one example I will show will further explain the conservation aspect. And also, they become skilled at pretend play or dramatic play, in which they use objects to represent others. And thinking on these 2 levels of representing 2 separate objects as another is known as metacognition. An example of the preoperational stage can be found in this photo here. This example, the child does not understand that the quantity of milk remains the same even though it is in a different shaped glass. This is the conservation that we had spoke about. In the first image to the left, you will see that there are 2 glasses of milk that are filled exactly the same. In the middle slide, the student is watching the person dump that same glass of milk into a taller glass. And on the last image, you're going to see that now that child feels that that taller glass has more milk than the smaller glass, even though at the very beginning they both had the same amount of milk. This is what is known as conservation. Another example of the preoperational stage is dealing with the metacognition that we spoke about, where the child is using the banana as a telephone in this image, but they are taking 2 separate objects and relating them to each other. So she is relating the banana to a telephone. Going on to the third stage is the concrete operational stage. This will have an age range of 7 to 11 years. Some characteristics on the concrete operational stage will include children begin to think logically about their concrete events. They're going to understand the concept of conservation. The children will become less egocentric and think about how others may view a situation. And last, the children gain the ability of reversibility. Most children will gain this ability, but reversibility is the ability to think about the steps of a process in any order. An example of concrete operational stage can be found in this example where the young girl is solving a concrete math problem. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4. And etc. And the last stage we're going to discuss is the formal operational stage. This is going to be found in an age group of 11 plus years, all the way up through adulthood. The characteristics for formal operational stage: you're going to witness adolescents begin to think abstractly. They're going to use symbols related to abstract concepts. And they think about multiple variables in systematic ways, morally, philosophically, and ethically. Also, adolescents begin to problem solve by exploring different alternative solutions to determine which approach best solves a particular problem, known as hypothetical reasoning. Have any of you used hypothetical reasoning before? I'm sure in a science or math class especially, or chemistry class particularly, that hypothetical reasoning came into play. So what's an example formal operational stage? Here, referencing back to chemistry class, this example shows students working together on a thermal energy science experiment. Obviously, they're going to need to know the components to get that chemical change for the thermal energy science experiment and find out what the outcome is. Obviously, if they get the outcome correct, they get the project correct. If not, they're going to go back and continue working through to try to get the outcome that is needed. So let's review what the 4 stages are. The sensory motor stage, birth to 2 years. The preoperational stage, 2 to 7 years. The concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years. And then the formal operational stage, 11 plus years. So now we've talked about the 4 stages of cognitive and language development. What I'd like you to do is think of an example you have witnessed or experienced in each of these cognitive stages. Please choose only one of the stages and its corresponding example that you can remember or have recalled, and share that in your response forum to this lesson. I also wanted to share with you the worksheet that I would have completed and filled out as we went through the actual PowerPoint. I would address this and give this to the students before approaching the PowerPoint. And as walking through the PowerPoint, I would go back to this worksheet and have them fill it in as we went along those specific subjects. Thank you so much for looking at my teaching PowerPoint, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a few things, if not brushed up on this topic, and I look forward to your responses. Thank you.